Background. What's happening? What's happening, everybody? What's good? What's good? What's good? Uh, man, got a something a day to day. But let's go ahead and jump into it. This your boy Sincere,
It's your boy Jay Hunnit.
and this is the JaySin podcast.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome everybody, power folk. Before we get started, I want to make it very clear that me and Jay are we have our pulse, we have our fingers on the pulses of the world. We pay attention to everything that is going on. And when we don't speak on certain things, it is 110% by choice. When we don't speak on the atrocities that seem to be happening every week with gun violence in our countries, at our schools, at our clubs, in our homes, in our streets, at our supermarkets, it is a conscious decision to not force feed it to you again. It is a conscious decision not to touch on these deeply rooted issues because it's not just a moment, it's not just one incident. There's going to be another. There's going to be another. Even more so, we don't have we don't believe in giving the people who have committed these atrocities any sort of fame or anything. We don't want to give these people any credit, any notoriety, which is why anytime we speak about it, we try, unless absolutely have to not even mention the criminal's name. You know what incident we're speaking of without having to mention their names. So, but after recent events, we felt that this would be a good time for us to address what is going on in our country.
Definitely.
So we're giving you an episode of it. There will not be anything else on this episode. We're just going to deal with this topic here. So if it's triggering, if it's traumatizing, if it's any of that, we completely understand. We appreciate the love and the support, regardless, and we understand that this episode is not for you. So that we're starting there. So before we get into it, I do want to ask Jay. I know that you have the luxury of spending time in multiple countries. You have time. You've had the luxury of spending time in two countries.
Yeah.
Oh, and I lost Jay. I don't know what happened to him. But okay. Well, I don't know what happened to Jay, but I guess this just means that I can go ahead and give you my version of things. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Had a technical difficulty there. First time.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Okay, so you have the luxury of being in two countries. Are we overreacting with the gun violence that we're experiencing here? Are we overreacting? Is it like this in other places? Is it like this back in VR?
I guess the quick answer to that is no, because in DR, for instance, there's other things that are very concerning. And it's all within the scope of society, obviously. It's two different countries, but we all know that the cultures are different, the way the system is set up is totally different. And people actually are always thinking about surviving, more than anything else. And, the concern is always to provide for your family. The concern is always to do what you can to make ends meet. And there are a lot of things, such as gun violence and like police brutality that kind of get swept under the rug a little bit in Dominican Republic. Right now there seems to be a major issue, with the way police are handling things. But it's taken all this time and all these decades for people and political officials to finally put a focus, or a kind of a magnifying glass on what's going on in terms of police brutality, because a lot of people are actually being murdered by the police out in Dominican Republic. But it usually takes a lot of situations and a lot of cases for it to become a focus in Dominican Republic. I think here things, when it becomes an issue, people are usually on it. The problem is here, I think in America, is that things become cyclical after a while. We talk about these issues, we try to take, measures to cure it, but we somehow, some way get back to the same thing. And, as I said, in Dominican Republic, it's a totally different animal, in terms of system, in terms of what people actually focus on, in terms of what society actually focuses on over there, on that end. And we're talking about apples and oranges, basically, because the United States, is considered a first world country. And we're comparing it to a country that's literally a third world, fourth world, maybe even fifth world country in Dominican Republic. So the society setup is technically different, but I'm seeing now in 2022 within Dominican Republic that there are people that are starting to focus on those same social issues that we actually have here in America. So, I guess to answer that question, I'd say no. I mean, a reaction is a reaction, I feel. And, I guess what I'm going to say, within my rhetoric, within my message, is gonna slightly vary, because I have another angle, to all of this, because it seems like we're always talking about, just pure gun violence, and we're always talking about gun control. And there's something seriously wrong in this country, because if you've checked the stats, we've had over 250 cases of school shootings. And I don't know if that's just this year, but that's a horrific number, because the country that's next to us, I believe, is Mexico. They've only they've only have had 8 cases basically of school shootings, which is terrible, and which also gives life to a bigger problem that we have here in the United States. And I've always gone with the motto that prevention is sorely better than cure. And when we were kids, you remember our parents used to tell us, while the stove is hot, don't put your hands on it, for
Right.
instance.
Correct.
If you put your hands on the stove, you're going to get burned.
Correct.
And that was something that our parents instilled in us, and I feel like prevention will always be better than cure, because we tend to just react on when things happen here, in the United States. And we're just so reactive instead of proactive, which has brought us basically to this situation that we're in right now. And we're currently in the same situation because we've been talking about school shootings since Columbine, and that was back in 1996, if I believe. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, pod folk. And at this moment in time, America is in a very bad place. I feel like the village is failing miserably to raise our children. When I say the village, I mean us, pod folk, us collectively, as parents, as teachers, as life educators, as authority. We're just failing miserably, as a people. And those more than 250 cases of what's has been going on in these schools is a direct reflection of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we always stress on this show, I think the last not the last, but one of the more serious conversations that we had the last time, when we didn't have any type of music, any type of clapping or anything like that, was back when we had that issue, with George Floyd and his passing. May he rest in peace. And it was a very serious conversation that we had. And I feel like this particular dialogue that we're having right now is just as serious as well. And once again, I'll mention it. We have to check on people, check on your kids, check on your toddlers, check on your teens.
Mm-hmm.
I think the root cause of all of this is not about the gun per se. I think it's about emotional support. It's something that a lot of people are not getting out there. There are a lot of parents out there, for instance, who want to live their own life, while they have children. And they have to understand the importance of the formation of that child. And I always tell people, you have to be careful who you decide to have children with, because that can have a major impact on how that child, I'm sorry, would be raised, or the way that they're going to come out. So I always feel like if we were more proactive as a society, we would prevent basically a lot of these things. And to me, the root of the cause, or the root of the problem, is emotional support. The village is simply failing to raise our children, meaning us as a society, meaning us as adults. Mental health, as I always said, cancer kills, AIDS killed, COVID killed. But to me, mental health is the biggest elephant in the room here. And that's just my perspective on things.
I agree.
And we need to, again, just find ways to give these children emotional support. We need to guard these schools, on every level, on primary, intermediate, and also in high school. We need to beef up security, because we're living a dangerous time right now, where not only that there are people out there who are not mentally there completely, but I would go as far to say as there's also factions out there who actually want to see us divided as people. And you could say what you want about that, but there's always corruption. There's always money involved in these things.
Always.
And, we have to keep a close eye on that as well. But to me, the root cause of everything that's going on, it's simply about mental health and how our children see the world, what's being promoted, basically, and I feel like we can just all do better, and we have to take these measures. And I actually wrote something on Facebook that that I got a lot of likes for, but it's not about the likes or anything like that. It was actually about the message that was being sent. And I quote, people who think that it's just simply about the gun, they clearly don't know the root of the real problem here. It's deeper than just weapons. And I feel like the government has forever been pushing, for gun control for decades, basically, because I've only been alive for, nearly 40 years. So I can only speak on that. We're dealing with one agenda to the next. And it is just all becoming cyclical in the sense where we're talking about this, and then time passes, everyone forgets, and then we come back and we talk about these things again,
Again, yep.
again and again and again. When will formation, education, mental health, and real consequences for egregious actions become a topic to expand on rather than just talking about gun control, basically? How about we talk about the mental behind the person who's behind the trigger? You know, what are teams consuming these days? That all goes back to how involved our parents are, with our children. What are they consuming these days? What is being promoted? How about we talk about sin? How about we give a thorough definition of what sin really is and explain that to our children? How about we talk about the money machine that are guns, that are the NRA? How about we talk about that?
Yeah,
And it's like, it's just heartbreaking,
it
that we
is.
have to come to talk about these things.
It
And
is.
it's like we do it over and over and over again, like Marshawn Lynch used to say on his interviews, over and over and over and over and over again, basically. And like, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about how to be proactive, basically, instead of reactive. And I think if we expand on those things a little bit more on how to be proactive, maybe it will increase society's morale and value of life, which has been totally diminished, I think, in all of this. And it's like we can easily find millions and billions of dollars to send to other countries. How
Yeah.
about we use some of those funds to for preventative purposes? How about we use those funds to give a psychological analysis, maybe to all our students on a yearly basis, just to
There's
see where their head is at, just to check on them at least.
there's a statistic that actually breaks down that if the money we just sent to Ukraine, it would be enough money to hire 7 SWAT members, all paid $70,000 to sit outside of the schools
Yeah.
in America. It would be enough to cover 7 SWAT members to sit outside of every school in America and pay them all $70,000.
I agree with that. I agree with that concept wholeheartedly.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Please
no,
continue. Please continue.
no, it's fine. I'm just trying to send that message that we're always talking about gun control, gun control, gun control, gun control. How about we be proactive instead of reactive? That's all I'm trying to say. Let's
Uh,
just be smart about things and let's try to prevent things before they actually happen. Now, with this situation, this has happened repeatedly throughout American history. So we have to come to a point where we have to take other measures rather than gun control. And I'm just going to end this off by simply saying the same cliche: prevention is better than cure, pod folk.
I I believe I'm going to speak from the other side because I believe that what you're saying is 110% accurate. I believe that we need to get to the root of why the people who are committing these acts are committing these acts. We need to. What bothers me? What bothers me? I'm sorry. What I have to say is not going to be as polished as yours today because I
I get you, bro. Take a deep
I don't
breath.
I don't I don't I don't get it. It bothers me and I don't get it. I don't get it because there's a lot that I try to unpack. There's a lot that I try to unpack. Like there was a child at Sandy Hook. He was 6 years old. I'm not gonna say his name. He was 6 years old, and he was shot 5 times with an automatic rifle. Have you ever seen what an automatic rifle, what an automatic round looks like when it hits a body? If you've never seen what an automatic round looks like when it hits a human body, imagine watching someone be punched as hard as they fucking can. As hard as you've ever physically seen anyone be punched. Imagine that. And someone had the stomach to shoot a child after he was already shot once and on the ground, to shoot him 4 more times. I don't. There's a problem here for me. Yes, there's a huge mental there's a huge mental health issue with that. There is. But there's also a problem with why does he ever need a gun that powerful? In what situation would you ever need a gun that powerful unless you're military? I don't get it. I don't. I genuinely don't understand. And I'm a gun owner. I think
And a
that's where
responsible
people,
one is that.
yeah, and I think that's what people need to understand. I'm not against guns. Even with the violence that's out here, I'm not against guns. But I see no reason for an assault rifle to be in the average American home. I get a regular rifle. I get hunting rifles. I get shotguns. Hunting. I get it. I get having a handgun. But why do you need a semi-automatic switch for a handgun? Why are there modifications for it? Why do you need that? Why do they exist for purchase for civilians? Why? What good? This this is this is this is what I'm trying to understand. When something is done for a purpose. When you offer alcohol for consumption, the reason you offer alcohol for consumption is because you want people to feel good. You want them to drink alcohol. Alcohol, when you drink it, you get drunk, you get tipsy, you feel nice. That is why you sell alcohol, so people get this feeling. That is why you create wine to go with food, to go with sweets. Why are you creating a switch to go on a handgun to make it go to automatic? What is it you are achieving by making this product and then selling it to civilians? What is it you are trying to achieve with this product? What is it you are hoping to achieve by selling assault rifles to civilians? If you go to get a gun license right now, there are things that will keep you from getting a license. Me, I can't get a license right now because I have a medical marijuana card. Okay? But my wife could get one. It's not hard to get a gun license. You just gotta apply for it. Then you can get your concealed carry license and all that. it's not hard to become a registered gun owner as long as you don't have like violent felonies up and down your rap sheet. But on top of that, you can go to a gun show. I watched a I watched a video this week after everything that happened. They sent a 13-year-old kid, a very obvious 13-year-old kid, into 7-Eleven to buy cigarettes.
Hmm.
They turned him away. They sent the same 13-year-old kid into a liquor store to buy beer. They turned him away. And then he went to a gun show with private gun owners. And he walked out with a rifle within the first 5 minutes of being there. An obvious 13-year-old kid.
Insane.
Same kid that got turned away for cigarettes and got turned away for alcohol.
Do you recall the state that this happened in?
I don't.
Okay.
But it's not uncommon.
Right.
It's not. It's not uncommon, and I feel like it's not just I don't want to focus on just the high school kids either. Because what happened in Orlando at the nightclub, sickening. The supermarket, sickening. The people who walked in their old jobs at the post office. Why is it doesn't matter. We have a problem here in this country. We have a problem. We had a situation where police officers went into a school to save their own children and then would not go back in for 45 minutes to save the other children.
Insanity.
We don't have protocol to go against what is being done in these schools, in these nightclubs, in these venues. Like, we don't have it. What happened in Orlando at the nightclub, at Post nightclub? Sickening. I know you remember what happened in Vegas.
I was about to say that just now. You read my mind.
From the hotel window. These ain't kids. And these ain't schools. We have a problem. Why do you own a gun strong enough to take down an elephant? What the fuck are you shooting that you need a gun big enough to take down an elephant? Why is that sold to civilians? Why does a gun that holds 100 rounds why is that sold to civilians? And I'm not getting nobody indicted. I'm not gonna overspeak it, but these weapons move in the streets too. These weapons flow through the inner city. Flow through the inner city. You think I got a gun because I'm worried about Mr. White Man in the suburban area with his assault rifle? That ain't my reality. Let's take a moment here. That ain't my reality. Mr. White Man in the suburban area, me and him might cross paths, but he ain't the reason I got a gun. I got a gun because niggas in the hood don't know how to act. And getting a gun in the hood is way easier than you fucking think.
That's a fact.
Don't let these niggas fool you.
Y'all heard about ghost guns?
Niggas can make a phone call and have one in your hand in 5 minutes. It's not that hard. It might have some bodies on it, but you got one. I didn't get a gun to protect me from them people who's shooting at out windows in Vegas. I didn't get a gun for that. I didn't have guns for years because of them. Anytime I've ever had a gun on me or with me, it's because of the places I be in and the people I be around. I haven't always been around savory people. There's been some pretty unsavory characters that have played, roles in my life. I wasn't always who the fuck I am now. And in those walks of life, guns and violence are very prevalent. And I understand that you're carrying a gun to protect yourself from what might happen. But that doesn't mean it's all right. And again, at this level, we usually talk about handguns. Because you carrying anything else, unless it's in the car, or you going out to really let something off, it ain't gonna do you no good. Because if I got a pistol on me and your gun hold 100 rounds, but it's in your trunk, that don't do you no good at this moment. I'm right here with it.
Right in the heat of the moment, definitely.
I don't do you no good. And in that life, you need it in the heat of the moment. But even still, the fact that these people can get guns so quickly where we come from is crazy. You can get guns that quick. You can get drugs that quick. You get all that shit where we come from. That's a problem. It's a problem because we don't own no ports. We don't own no docks. We're not flying them guns in here. We're not moving them drugs into our neighborhoods. We don't own these things.
We don't even own our own neighborhoods.
I'm tired of hearing babies, tired of hearing about babies dying. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it, bro. Let me explain something to you. I am moving. In a month, I am moving. Where we live now, when we moved here years ago, it was cool. Then the pandemic hit. People got a little outrageous. Money started slowing up for everybody, including the developers, including the city, including everything. This neighborhood done went backwards. This neighborhood I'm in has taken steps backwards. Not too long ago, in the middle of the day, it was about a year, when I started seeing the writings on the wall. 10 in the morning. It was my first day outside after breaking my tibia. My first day outside learning to walk. I had just successfully walked down the stairs and walked halfway up the block. It was a fucking celebration. A block away, a nigga pulls up and pulls the AK out and lets 50 rounds off. And he don't hit a goddamn thing. I think he hit one nigga in the leg. From that day forth, I've noticed the zombies. I've noticed the niggas that make it hot. I noticed it getting really close to my fucking door. And then about a month and a half ago, 5 in the afternoon, bang, 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 bang. Gunfire erupts outside. Two people hit. My wife is watching as the paramedics perform chest compressions on a 20-something-year-old boy. Still a child. 20-something-year-old. You're still a child. 21, 22, you're still a child. You're legally able to drink, but you're a child still.
From a mental standpoint,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
She's watching this child have chest compressions performed and watches him lose his life. First gunshot came from in front of our steps. Last weekend, same as that thing happened on the opposite corner of our building. Last night, there was a mass shooting on South Street in Philadelphia. On 3rd and South Street. 14 people shot.
Crazy. I heard about that this morning, bro. And I thought about you guys.
It's crazy because my wife just had dinner 3 blocks from there the week before and was walking out of the restaurant the same exact time that this encounter happened. I keep feeling like the shit is too close. I keep feeling like this shit is too close. So for me, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing it. And you want to know what? Part of what I thought we could address on this when I was thinking on it and I realized we can't. Everybody wants to know, how do you stop gun violence? How do you stop gun violence? You can't. You can't. And that's the sad part. You can't stop gun violence. There's always going to be a level of gun violence in this country. Whether it be in the ghettos, whether it be kids mad at their school, whether it be people upset with their job, you can do whatever you want with assault rifles. And what's going to happen is you're going to level the playing field. You are going to stop these shootings that have 20 people get shot and 15 die. But it's not going to stop the act. It's just going to lower the amount of people that are killed. It's going to make it easier for the police to get in there and do their jobs, to get this person out of there if they know they're dealing with someone who just has handguns and not an entire fucking arsenal of weapons. You're not going to stop the gun violence. And I'm tired. I don't know how many fucking stop the violence rallies we're going to have. I'm tired of seeing the stop the fucking violence rallies. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing the gun violence rallies. I'm tired of it. I know this sounds fucked up to say, but I've been seeing it my entire fucking life, and we're still having to do them.
We're still having these conversations over and over again, like I mentioned earlier. It's sickening. And that's why we don't, as a podcast, talk about these things often, because they just keep on happening. It's cyclical. It's never going to stop.
Never going to stop. All I can ask is you regulate what happens so that these incidences, unfortunately, will only claim the lives of maybe 2 to 3 people instead of 30. If someone has their mind set on shooting up their school, they are going to do it. All I can ask is that we take away the options of what they have to do it with. We need to get him help. We need to get that man who wants to shoot up his job help. We need to get him help. We need to take away the assault rifles that he doesn't shoot everybody on his floor and get away with it. So that when police are trying to come through the door, they got assault rifle rounds coming at them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are going to be people who, no matter what you do, they are going to commit these atrocities.
Of course.
The difference is, let's try to keep it from being 30 people. There's no reason it needs to be 30 victims. There's no reason he needs to have 100 round drums. There's no reason for it. I don't even know what to say about the hood, because they want us to say it's getting better in the hood. It's not. It's statistically, have you seen what it looked like in some of these hoods? Have you looked up Philadelphia? Have you looked up Cali? Have you looked up Baltimore? Have you looked up New York recently?
My goodness. I have the Citizens apps in, and that shit goes off like every 5 minutes with an incident happening here in the Bronx.
It's not getting no better. Stop letting these fucking white people lie to you. Stop letting these people get on these news stations, get on these podcasts, give you these fuck ass numbers, and they ain't never had boots on the ground where we live. How can you listen to somebody about where we fucking come from who ain't never set foot there? How? How can you listen to someone tell you what it's like in war who ain't never been on the battlefield?
Make it make sense.
I said what I need to say,
man. I agree, with everything you had to say as well. Even though our rhetorics or our perspectives were different, I feel like we're heading in the same direction, in terms of what has, been said. And
we're coming at it from two different
right, from two different directions, but we're all going to that same message. Exactly. We're both striving with both perspectives to get to that, to that ultimate place, or to that ultimate message that we want to send out as a podcast. And we simply have to do better collectively. There's too much selfishness going around in the world right now, especially here in America. I feel like there's not enough compassion going around here, you know, especially in the more populated cities, you know, that you mentioned, obviously. And if something is going to change, at least to reduce that 30 amount of people being murdered to 2, it has to be a collective effort, you know. And I'm going to mention the village again. It's going to take us collectively to do something different. And up until that doesn't happen, nothing is going to change, you know. And I guess my stance is more about reduction rather than stopping things, because it's hard to just stop violence and stop crime anyway, because people out there, you know, causing these things, you know, they're already wired a certain way. They already know what they want to do. They want to inflict harm. Evil exists basically in the world. It will always exist in the world. Corruption will always exist. People having an agenda on others will always exist. You know, people wanting to execute that same agenda will always exist. It's all about just being proactive about things, being smart about things, and having that collective execute that proactiveness, you know, with everything that's going on, whether it's, limiting certain guns, you know, for citizens, or, you know, just taking those steps, you know, in psychoanalyzing people, you know, and just you know, just checking on your friends, like, you know, we always do, like we always preach here in the podcast, and just doing what's right, you know. And it's basically all to just reduce things. And we just have to, like, just be better people and just think about and be compassionate about our neighbor,
Yep.
you know, and just be aware of everything that's going on. And in your case, Sincere, I remember you told me that, you know, about the situation, you know, in your neighborhood, in your current neighborhood. And, you know, if you saw those writings on the wall, you know, my personal opinion is that you should have acted like a lot sooner, you know, to try to like make a move. But, you know, I understand situations, and I understand, you know, why things happen. And I'm only saying this because, you know, I love you and Grace, you know, to pieces. You guys are family. And if there's anything I can do to prevent family from being harmed in any way, shape, or form, I'd want that done, you know, as soon as possible, you know, to try to like avoid these things. And, you know, it's just rough. It's just rough all around. We are living in crazy times basically. And I don't know if it's due to social media or everything that's being promoted by the news or whatever is being spewed, you know, by media, but we definitely have to be there for each other, I think, more than ever. And we can constantly preach this, but until that action is actually executed, nothing is ever going to change. Nothing will be reduced. That number 30 will stay there. That number 40, 50, 60 people dead, 100 people dead will always be there if we don't take the steps collectively as a society. And I'm talking about the American public, black, whites, Chinese, everyone from every culture puts their hand in to try to reduce what's going on at the moment. And that's all I have to say at this time.
We appreciate y'all for tuning in. We will be back next week uh, for a new episode. It won't be this heavy, we promise. Until then, be safe, y'all.
Be safe. Have a great week, everybody.